Today we're asking, with Kamala Harris riding high after the Democratic convention, can she keep the vibe alive long enough to win the election? Then, odd couple. Robert Kennedy Jr. drops out and backs Donald Trump. Will it make a difference? And later, just plain awesome. We'll show you the new housing solution that's taking off. The panel is here and ready to go, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. Up first, Democrats rallying around Kamala Harris at their convention this week as she introduced herself to many Americans for the first time and laid out the dangers of putting Donald Trump back in the White House. But now that the fun is over, can she keep the party going?
Let's get to business. Let's get to business.
Like a prosecutor making her opening argument, Kamala Harris laying out the case for her campaign.
Our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward.
And the case against her opponent, saying it's Donald Trump, not her, who's pushing a radical agenda.
Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Every convention speaker bolstering her argument.
Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
And trying to turn a campaign into a full-blown movement.
Let us choose joy!
But leaving no doubt, despite the excitement in the hall, this will be a tough race.
It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball.
Here with me today, podcaster, journalist, and author Kara Swisher. Reihan Salam, president of the Manhattan Institute, a National Review contributing editor. Nia Malika Henderson, opinion columnist at Bloomberg. And conservative pollster and New York Times opinion writer Kristen Soltis Anderson. Welcome back, everyone. So let's put aside the convention as a show. It was very well produced, and talk about the real purpose, the real question, which is how well did it push Kamala Harris's effort to win this election in November forward? Kristen, start with you. Give me a grade and explain why.
I give you a grade of a B-, and that's because we're not grading this on it being a show, right? If it was a show, you have everyone from Lil Jon to Oprah firing up the crowd, certainly unifying this party. But I do wonder, if you were somebody who's a swing voter, who's very worried about the cost of groceries, you're very worried about immigration, et cetera, will this pivot from Kamala Harris of the past to tough on the border Kamala Harris, tough on crime Kamala Harris? Will it be credible? I still think it's too soon to tell. So that's why I give it this cautious grade of a B-.
Kara.
Well, an F. No, actually an A. What are you talking about, Kristen? No, I would never give her an F. I'm wearing her shoes, for example. I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done as a production. I think that matters because this is marketing. Everything is marketing now. And I think she put on a very good show of presenting herself for the first time. Because
but does it help her win the election?
Yes, because she's a blank slate. And so what the Trump campaign isn't doing, they haven't been able to define her for some reason. He keeps talking about the coach, Walls versus her, or assistant coach, whatever. He cannot address her. And so she's been able to define herself. So I give it an A because she was able to rush in there with lots of good information about herself.
Reihan, if she was a blank slate to a lot of people going into this convention, did it help write in and fill in that slate?
I do think that she addressed, and the Democrats more broadly addressed, a key vulnerability for the party. They needed to project themselves as a party of patriotism. They wanted to seem like a party of normalcy, a party that was accessible to suburban moderates. And I think that they did a very good job by not really addressing any policy issue in any substantive or sustained way other than abortion, an issue where they are broadly in line with those suburban moderates. So my grade is an A because, again, being evasive, not actually talking about policy, and really focusing on those positive, warm and fuzzy Americana-type vibes was what they needed to do.
That's kind of a backhanded A, I have to say.
But look, I mean, they better stay
Yeah,
quiet.
It worked for Reagan.
No, they better stay quiet and stay focused on not actually talking about the Biden agenda. And they avoided it entirely. It seemed as though she was a challenger, not part of an incumbent administration.
Well, I agree with that to a certain degree that she made, which they very much want to do, make it a referendum about Trump, not a referendum about her, or to a certain degree, even a choice.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Grade and why?
There isn't no higher grade than an A+++, and that's what I give the convention in terms of the presentation, the television aspect of it, which I do agree is quite important for the political aspect of it and the sort of how you're making an argument to average Americans. And they had all sorts of people to make those arguments to average Americans. People like Adam Kinzinger, who is a Republican, reaching out to those Trump-Biden voters, those Nikki Haley Republicans, to get those sort of centrist Republicans and moderates to back her ticket. And then she looked like a boss. She looked like a president, to the extent that she is trying to break the highest and hardest glass ceiling, and being a woman could be problematic. She went in there and said, I am tougher than Donald Trump. He's the one that would kowtow to a dictator. I'm the one that would be tough on Kim Jong-un and Putin. So I thought that it was an excellent presentation, both politically and in terms of television.
I'm actually with you, Kristen. I thought it was a B at best, and I just don't think it credibly convinced people, that the swing voters, not the base, that she is not the person that they fear. I'm going to move forward on. Democrats continued their new attack against Trump, which instead of building him up as a big threat, is tearing him down as almost kind of a joke. Take a look.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. Donald Trump is a weak man pretending to be strong. He is a small man pretending to be big.
Kristen, is the Trump is small strategy, is that a big deal?
I think it's certainly better than the really apocalyptic tone that you had seen come out of the Biden campaign when he was the nominee presumptive. Because really what a lot of voters who don't like either candidate want to know is there somebody who I think will just let me get my life back to normal? I won't have to think about them being president, et cetera. And so I've always thought this election was going to be who's going to be the strong hand on the wheel that's just going to keep things going in a good direction. And when it was Trump versus Biden, the answer was very much not Joe Biden. Now that this election has been flipped, I think it's gutsy of Democrats to really try to flip that whole dynamic on its head and say, no, he's weak, he's small, rather than he's going to bring about the end of the country.
Kara, is this the right way to go
Absolutely.
after Trump, or so they shouldn't stick to the Biden argument? This guy is a threat to democracy.
No, because if you do the whole, democracy's on the line at stake, even me, I'm like, I got to feed my kids in the morning. I don't want to, save democracy today. It's heavy. It's heavy. And I think, first of all, it bothers him and triggers him. And he's so easily triggered. That works in that way. And therefore, he responds not in the right way. So he gets preoccupied with it. And it also does, you start to go, oh, he is small. And what I was going to note before is a lot of the independent voters and then undecided after on CNN were like, I'm interested in her. This is interesting. And they were, someone, I think Audie Cornish was calling it Kamala curious. They're Kamala curious, and then they're tired of him. And so it's an interesting dynamic to make him tiny.
I think we all agree that Kamala Harris has had an almost magical month, but it's all been programmed.
Sure.
And now she's got to face interviews, and she's got the September 10th debate. Nia, what happens when Kamala Harris comes out from behind the teleprompter?
Well, listen, some of her former advisors are a bit nervous about this because they had, over this past year, really put her out there doing interviews. She for instance, did an interview with 60 Minutes. She did an interview with Maverick Carter, who, of course, is LeBron James's BFF. And they felt like getting her out there made her more comfortable with it. And that hasn't happened over the last couple of weeks. I have been in private settings with her. I find her very smart, engaging. She knows policy. She's going to have to get out there, and they have promised that she's going to do that by the end of the month. So we'll see when that happens.
I was going to say that's a week.
Yeah, that's a week.
And I thought it was interesting because the word coming out of the Harris campaign is, well, now she's really preparing for the debate. So I'm wondering if they're
they've got to stick to this.
I wonder whether they're backing off this interview this week. Raihan, I mean, the fact is, you'd look at the record, we could have run a bunch of clips. Harris does not have a strong record in facing tough interviews. What do you think happens when she's not programmed, not teleprompter? She's got to face reporters, got to face Donald Trump on a debate stage.
I believe that the Harris team has done one thing exceptionally well, and this is even before she became the Democratic Party's nominee for president. She has done an excellent job of cultivating the press in D.C. and nationally. She has a really big fan base among reporters at the major, most prestigious media outlets, and I think that she is going to have an interviewer who is going to have shared interests, who will want to be covering the White House in the next administration. And I think that it's going to be pretty straightforward. So I think that they're teeing that up. It's true that she struggles with improvisation, and it's true that she's changed her opinions pretty markedly on a range of issues and might have a tough time explaining that with a really critical and rigorous interview. But I don't think that's what she's going to do.